Hi everyone, Tracker for Finding Sasquatch coming to you from northeastern Ontario. Bigfoot Sasquatch tried to kidnap 4-year-old from his bedroom. Okay, this report was written and submitted by S.D. Baker to Bigfoot Sites. This takes place in Copalis Beach, Washington State. I think it's the best encounter report of all time because there was evidence, multiple witnesses, and police investigated this. Anyway, Copalis Beach now is a great tourism area. Logging is also the other main industry right now, as well as back in the 1960s where this takes place. The father was a foreman of a logging crew, very serious guy, not known for being a prankster. Anyway, I filmed this mostly from memory, added some stills for visualization. The Cowman of Copalis Beach. Okay, just approaching an abandoned house, old wood planking. I'm gonna guess this house might be 60 to 75 years old, maybe. So that puts it right in back in the 1930s or 40s. Cowman of Copalis Beach, Washington, occurred in the mid-60s. And I'll post the name of the person who reported it or wrote the story about their dad's friend who always relayed the story to the writer's dad, and the writer retold it for everybody interested in Bigfoot, I guess, on the Bigfoot sites. Alright, so anyway, all starts off, I'm gonna have to use another clip for Sasquatch on the fence part, but anyway, starts off with a 4-year-old named Tim. He was playing outside and comes in the house, or his mom notices he's all excited when he comes in the house, and he said the cowman is caught on the fence, the barbed wire fence, the fence over there. And she didn't really understand what he was doing, what he was talking about, why he was acting excited, strange. But anyway, the living room, similar setup, I guess. The kitchen. I don't know who's using this now. Maybe hunters and vagabonds, but so let's just go in here. So Tim's mom looks out, doesn't see anything. She notices the barbed wire fence bouncing up and down. That something just pulled on it. Can't get out that way, come back this way. Something just pulled on it, and she suggests that the young boy play inside the rest of the day, and she's nervous that she's being watched. And it's typical of Sasquatch encounters. People are scared without knowing why, but they suspect they're being watched or followed. Okay, so here's the fence climber. The NPA Davis did a breakdown of this. He does a lot of work on these things to help educate the public on Sasquatch, what's real and what isn't. All these shots I borrowed are from the web. I covered under fair use. I didn't want this to be about me, so I didn't use any of mine. Okay, so Jon Jr. gets off the bus. This is old dirt road, kind of like what he would have been on. That he takes a little sub road, I guess, to go to his house. Paralleling John on the way home of the same day that Tim seen the cowman stuck on the fence was something large and powerful and heavy breaking branches paralleling Jon Jr. in the bush as he was walking home from where he got dropped off at the bus. And he's pretty scared. He's making his way to his house right there, an old homestead. The main path here has been overgrown, and he gets inside and tells his mom this frightening encounter or frightening experience. And then they relay the story to his dad. His dad hears that that story along with his younger 4-year-old son Tim about the cowman being on the fence, and his wife seeing the fence coil bouncing up and down like something just freed itself. Pretty awesome story. Frightening, but awesome if you're not the one experiencing it. So Tim, the 4-year-old, is in his room, and at the window, 7 or 8 foot Sasquatch comes and visits him every night and talks in his funny Sasquatch gibberish monkey talk as described by young Tim in the story. And he comes out of the room when his dad comes home, and his dad was talking to his mom about their son John's experience about being followed up the driveway. That was after at the end of the day when Tim had his encounter in the morning, and he told his mom the cowman was stuck on the fence. And then the father, after dinner, decides to investigate. So let's go and investigate. Okay, so John the father and Tim go out and investigate where he said the cowman was stuck on a fence. Now, this is an old cedar fence, but might have had barbed wire on it at one time. And if I can find, you see, maybe over there, you see some barbed wire there coming across just at the very top. But if I can find better footage of barbed wire kind of thing, I'll insert it. But anyway, they investigated it. John the father found reddish brown hair and tangled in the barbed wire fence. It was about 1 foot long, very tough. He couldn't tear it off. He noticed there was a piece of matted skin also in with the flesh at the knot of the barbed wire kind of thing. And he had to use his little pocket knife to cut the hair loose. That's how strong the hair was, and that's how tangled up this being, or this creature, or this, at the time, this mystery creature was. And had 1 foot long, as again, had over 1 foot long or so of red matted stringy hair. Pretty cool. So after the events of the day of young Tim seeing a strange creature caught on the fence, and the mom noticing the smell, the fence bobbing up and down as if something just tore itself free, the older son, Jon Jr, being followed home off the bus. John takes his rifle, or I think he had a handgun maybe, and he goes out to the fence, old fence here. He locates the spot, thanks to Tim was with him, the 4-year-old. He pulls the over 1 foot long length of brown, reddish, matted, tough hair caught in a barbed wire fence. It was so entangled that, and the hair was so tough that he had to use his knife to cut it free. At the knot of the barbed wire fence, the little spikes, there's a bit of flesh caught, and he has that for evidence of their young boys and his wife's encounter. He
investigates, goes tracking to see if this is just a vagabond spooking their family, but he doesn't know of anything, you know, in the area. He looked that could leave hair like that. He looked for like a stray cow or maybe even a horse or something, horse's mane. So he's in the bush, and then he hears something in the bush with him, and he gets really scared because he can hear it breathing. It sounds, and he can see an outline. It's very huge. I think he said it was over 7 feet, very thick built. So at that point he tells his son Tim to go back to the field and run for home. When he says now, or anyway, Tim takes off across the field. This is a dusk, but I can't film at dusk, that it occurred back in the 60s. John is yet say in here, a dark creature, heavily built creature, reaches up with an arm and a hand and grabs a 5-inch tree, diameter tree, kind of like that one. Uses it to pull himself up. I guess maybe that one over there, kind of. It darts out of the bush through the trees. It's just a blur that John caught out of his eye, and in horror he realizes that the Sasquatch is running after his son, which is and towards their house. So he takes off. He takes off after the Sasquatch. The Sasquatch's running after little Tim. They're running. John fires some warning shots trying to scare the Sasquatch away from his son. It doesn't work. The Sasquatch catches up in just a matter of seconds, even though John had a good head start on him. Barn's over that way. The Sasquatch catches up to him, bends, slopes his shoulders down a little bit to get a better reach, and uses one of his hands to kind of like pat the boy in the butt and sends him flying like 10 feet. And then the Sasquatch, after knocking the boy down, veers off back into the bush, and the boy, and goes into a deep bush where the dad can't see it, and the boy's left crying on the ground. He didn't even know what was behind him. So it just kind of felt like a bear knocking him down. The father picks up the son. They make their way to the house, and they hear they explain to the wife and Jon Jr. what happened, and no other events happened that night. But the next day, the activity picks up. Okay, Tim wakes up, comes out of his room the next morning, and he hears Jon Jr. telling his dad in the kitchen that he heard something, a bear brushing up against the house last night, but he was too scared to investigate or wake up and tell his dad. And then Tim comes in from his bedroom, comes in and tells his parents, who would be in the kitchen here somewhere, old kitchen counter, and he says that the cowman talks funny, and his parents go cold and they freak out and they're like, the cowman was in your room? And Tim goes, no, silly, the cowman's too big for my room. He was at my window talking to me. And then kind of like a monkey gibberish kind of talk, which now we call samurai chatter, I guess, thanks to Sierra Sounds, Ron Moorhead, Alan Berry. So anyway, and then after that, that incident, they go check on the hogs. Let's go do that. Okay, so they go check on the hogs. Jon, Dad, and I don't know if his Jon Jr. came with them, but as they approached the barn and the corral, they noticed something was strange. They have two younger hogs, I don't know, 40, 50 pounds each, that usually squeal on approach of the farmers, I guess, and they get to the corral and they notice the hogs are gone. They've been taken. Of course, this is just a reenactment of a corral which is probably used for cows or horses. But anyway, Jon Sr., Dad, notices big prints in the mushy mud kind of corral that the pigs live in. And he's thinking, what could carry off two heavy pigs, one under each arm or whatever happened, without having to break their corral fence, and could just walk away without a sound. So you'd have to probably snuff them out first before the Sasquatch would have to kill them first before carrying them off, else they'd be squealing. Anyway, that's pretty cool. Part of the story. So later on that night, Jon, the dad, was on his porch with a gun in hand, protecting his family against these strange, I guess they were considered to be animals at that time, that were talking to his son at the window, and another knocked his son down in the field and followed his older son home from the bus. So anyway, he goes into the barn. It's dark. He's got like a little flashlight that can barely cut through the darkness. He's in the barn looking around, and his senses on alert. He knows he's being watched. He knows he hears something in the barn. When he's in the barn, he hears sounds from the loft. And up here, for example, a loft, and maybe a window there. So anyway, he knows this thing has him caught dead to rights. He's got to get back through the doorway. The sounds of heavy, something heavy is in the loft over there. He's got to get back through the doorway, and I think at that point he hears screaming from inside the house and gunfire back at the house. So he throws caution to the wind. He runs out of the barn and he runs towards his house, forgetting about the one that might have been in the top of the barn waiting for him. Probably a distraction to get him off the porch so that the adult female could approach their house. And so he comes running back. It's kind of hot out, but I'll do a little bit of running here. So he comes running back, gun in hand. Here's his wife. Heard his wife screaming. He heard a couple gunshots, and he comes running back to the house to see what's going on. So Jon comes running back to the house after hearing a god-awful scream and the gunshots and what sounded like his wife screaming. He gets to the house. His wife's in hysterics in the living room, kitchen area. They retreated out of the bedroom after the wife investigated their young son Tim talking to somebody in his bedroom. At the window of his bedroom was a Sasquatch where the shoulders was up at the top and the head was kind of ducking down. Puts it around 7.5, 8 feet. The mom told the little boy, Tim, to get away from the window. She had a rifle, and the boy retreated, and the Sasquatch reached in, broke the glass, reached in through the window trying to grab Tim. And that's when the mother opened up and fired shots at the Sasquatch. It screamed. The family retreated into the living room area. John, the father, investigated the bedroom, looked for the Sasquatch, seen the broken window. They gathered up a few things and made a hasty run for the car, out the door and back to the driveway, and into their old car and off to an uncle's place and to safety for the night. But that wasn't the end of the incident or the encounter. When they came back, and they took off and to the driveway and away in the car. When they came back the next day, they forgot something very important. They forgot to close the door, and the Sasquatch went inside the house. They threw an old Frigidaire heavy fridge from the kitchen. Maybe I can pull up a picture of one of those. They threw an old fridge from the kitchen in through the living room. The old TV set was thrown around, or it might have been the other way. The TV set was thrown around and the fridge was just thrown across the kitchen room. Anyway, these are heavy old 1960s appliances. You don't move them with two guys, or two guys you can drag and push them across the floor. And besides the house being totally wrecked, the ceiling scratched and clawed, like head marks on it, bumping into the ceiling, something that was too big to be inside. There was no drag marks from the fridge being tossed around in the kitchen and the TV being thrown through the house into the other room, or the other side of the room. So that's pretty incredible. It's probably one of the best encounters of all time. You know, maybe after Osterman's kidnapping and Ape Canyon, it's probably like what, number 3 or 4 if you include the PGF. But pretty awesome. They had hair, and they had skin, they had prints, multiple eyewitnesses, and a police report, and from a very respectable foreman that worked for a logging company, and a reference from his boss that he was not the type of person to make something like this up. And the police investigated it, and they found evidence that the house was tossed. Pretty awesome, I guess. As long as you don't have to live through something like that. Okay.
Here's one of those old Frigidaire fridges that weighs several hundred pounds, very awkward to move, let alone being thrown across the kitchen. The TV was thrown, I think, out of the living room and into the kitchen without dragging it. Obviously, men can't do that, and adds more validity to the story. This was filmed pretty much from memory. Also, when I filmed this, I didn't know they were making a movie about the Cowman of Copalis Beach called Something in the Woods. So go see it. Sounds like a great movie, and I'll see you soon.